All right, finally, Scream 5 has been released by Paramount now. It's no longer Dimension Films or the Weinsteins. We got a new company behind this movie, and we got a new set of directors here. We don't have Wes Craven, of course, rest in peace. We got the directors of Ready or Not, and we got new writers. Kevin Williamson is producing this one. He did not write this one. The writers of like Zodiac and some other movies wrote this one. And this one tells a story about a new group of characters. It's 25 years later, and we got a new Ghostface killer killing people. This one chick has a family secret that gets revealed, and then Sydney and Gail and Dewey try to help these new characters solve the mystery, and then you get your reveal at the end. It's a Scream movie. It plays out the same exact way as all the other Scream movies, which I've reviewed already. So if you want to hear my thoughts on Scream 1 through 4, check out those reviews. I'll try to leave a card right here. So let's talk about Scream 5. Let's talk about my positives. The opening was good. I liked it. It's not the best opening, but it's not the worst. It is basically a recreation of the original, which is the theme of this movie. It's trying to be the original, just like Scream 4 was trying to be the original. So this movie is not really saying anything different. This one is also a commentary on remakes and requels, as they call it. Sequels that want to basically remake the original, which is what Scream 4 was. A sequel that's trying to remake the first one. So we're doing that again. But in this one, the opening is very much like Drew Barrymore, and I'm not spoiling anything. The things I'm going to talk about will be spoiler free, and things that are in the trailer, the first one that I watched. So we've seen the trailer. We know that this chick's gonna pick up the phone and it's gonna play out just like the first one. She's lifting the knife, just like Drew Barrymore did in the first one. Similar shots. There's tons of homages, similar shots, similar lines in this movie. So there's definitely fan service in it. But the opening, I think, is just like Scream 1, the best part of the movie. It unfortunately went downhill slowly after that, especially by the third act. But yeah, not that big on this movie. This movie's fine, but the opening is the best part. I like that actress. I thought she was great. I like what she was saying, her dialogue. How she's talking about the trend in horror in the last 10 years, how it became more art house horror, more independent films started coming out. Talks of Ari Aster and Hereditary, the Babadook. They talk about Jordan Peele. So I like what she was saying, and she even criticizes '90s horror and how they're overlit. That made me chuckle. Like, yes, exactly. The first couple of Scream movies, as much as I like them, they don't look good. These movies nowadays, they look much better. And I like that they're doing the phone game again. We get more trivia questions. That's not something they did in every sequel. I feel like it went away in part 2. It was just more about the calls and saying scary things. In the first one, they did the phone trivia thing that I really liked, and they kind of brought it back in part 4. I don't think they did it in 2 or 3, but they do the phone horror trivia thing again here because it's a remake and it's trying to be like the first one. And if you're wondering if this is going to be a more modern slasher that's going to up the violence and up the blood, up the gore like Scream 4 did, yes and no. It's the second bloodiest in my opinion. It has the most stabs in it, but it's not the goriest. There's one cool, memorable, gruesome kill in the movie towards like the middle. That was really good. That's the only one that's going to stand out. So, but the rest were just simple stabs, just like all the other movies. But there's lots of blood, but it's not the bloodiest. It's not the goriest. In the trailer, they show that they go back to Stu's house, and I wish they didn't show that in the trailer, because they kind of treat it like a reveal in the movie. Like, where are they going? Oh, they're going to Stu's house, and this character lives there, and that's why they're there. And so it's like, oh, that would have been kind of a cool reveal, but they kind of spoiled it all over the internet and in the trailer, so, but whatever. But I like that. I like that they went back to Stu's house for the third act. And I don't want to spoil much. It's hard to talk about a Scream movie without spoiling shit, because they're murder mysteries, so you don't want to know who's going to be the killer, who's going to get killed, or anything like that. So I'll just say the hospital scene was really intense. A good chase, and Also, just it had my heart racing. I was like excited. I thought the movie had a good flow, good pace. There was a couple of good heartfelt moments in here between like Gail, reuniting with Dewey, um, just like in all the other Scream movies. In between, they split up. They split up in between Scream 1 and 2, and then they split up between Scream 2 and 3. They're finally still together between Scream and 4, but now between 4 and 5, they split up again. So just like before, but they have a good heartfelt moment together. There's a good heartfelt moment between Sam and her sister. So I liked those moments in the movie. The one character in this movie that I liked was Sam's boyfriend. I forget his name. Was it Randy? Something Richie, something like that. He had the best like humor in the movie. He actually made me chuckle a couple of times, and he just one of the main red herrings because he's the new Sydney's boyfriend, and so. But I liked his dialogue. He was the best new character in my opinion. So now getting into my dislikes for this movie, two things I think really hurt this film for me when I was watching it. A, the new Sydney we get, Sam. I was not into her character. Like her performance just felt off at times. I wasn't believing her. Like I don't know if it's the dialogue or just her line delivery, but I just was not into her. So that really hurt the film. And the second thing was how shoehorned Gail and Sid feel in this movie. Like if you thought Sydney was barely in Scream 3, she's like in this movie as much as Jason is in Jason Goes to Hell. Like she's barely in it. It's a good like 35 minutes or so until you even see or hear their names. Like until you see their faces, hear their names, like you're like, "Oh, that's right. I forgot about them." All these new characters, the ones that are friends of the girl in the opening, uh all her friends, I didn't care for them. Like they spend a good amount of time with them, but I still feel like they're kind of underdeveloped. A couple of them, like I just don't care about them. You don't care about them like you liked Tatum and Stu and Randy in part one. Like these new ones, I was just like, I don't care what happens to them. I was kind of excited when I looked into the movie and I read that Brian Tyler was going to do the score. The first four movies have all been Marco Beltrami, if that's how you say his name. And I've never been a huge fan of the score in the franchise, but I thought part four did it best. In this one, Brian Tyler, who's done many horror movies and many different genres, action, everything. He's a really well-known composer in Hollywood today. So I was like, oh, big name, professional. Like he's gonna be good. I'm curious to see what he's gonna do. If he's gonna make a new sound or anything that's gonna be interesting, scary. No, like there's stingers and jump scare noises here and there, like throughout the film. I felt like I was watching a '90s horror movie again. But again, maybe that was on purpose. It's a remake of part one. Maybe they were trying to do that. It was consciously done. But fuck that. I hate jump scares. I hate the stingers. It's just stop it. Stop. I hate it. And they even bring back that song, which I know is fan service, but I hate that song in Scream 1, 2, and 3, the one that keeps playing on the radio. They play in this one as a little, homage to part 1, 2, and 3, but I fucking hate that song. And they even bring back Dewey's theme that plays in Scream 2 as another little Easter egg for fans. Like, oh, look, that sound. I don't like that fucking music cue in Scream 2 either. So it's like, oh, I thought Brian Tyler was going to do something new, but no, we're just going to bring back older cues and we're going to put in stinger noises for jump scares. And I don't mean to brag when I say this, but I thought the killer or killers, I won't spoil 1 or 2, 3, 4, I thought it was kind of predictable. So just saying, it was kind of predictable. And dude, the motivation we get, I don't like it. And if you've seen my other Scream reviews, you've heard me say how I don't like the long speeches and how stupid the killer or killers seem to be at the end. How they like to give their speeches while they hold someone at gunpoint or knife point instead of just fucking killing them. We get that again here, but it's just as ridiculous, if not a tad more ridiculous than some before, where you're like, really? Wouldn't they just pull the trigger at this point? Like, they've said their piece, just get it over with. But again, that's just part of the franchise. They're making that same mistake in this movie. To me, it's a mistake. They're making it again as tribute to all the other ones. It's trying to be a Scream movie, just like all the other ones, sort of making the same mistake again and again. I just wish they'd go away from that Like, and whatever happened to no motive? Why can't they just, just one, two, or three people? Like, I'm not going to spoil how many killers there are. It could be one, it could be two, it could be three or four, it could be a whole cult. But whatever happened to no motive? I think that would have been scarier. What if the person took the mask off and it was someone we never met? Mrs. Voorhees. That would have been much better. And also, just in retrospect, when you find out who the killer or killers is, you look back and you're like, well, how did they pull that off? Like, really? Get the fuck out of here. Oh, and then, oh, no, that would be a spoiler, but they do another thing that these other movies are known for. I won't spoil that, even though it's not, whatever. I'm not going to say it, but they make another mistake that the other movies make, and I just wish they'd get away from that. Jesus Christ, do we have to do it 5 movies in a row? Do something different. Maybe it's my fault for going into this movie expecting something way different. I don't know what I was expecting, but not them making the same mistakes. I thought we'd learned from their mistakes and do something different. I wanted there to be more surprises, more shocks, and I didn't really get that. So final thoughts, if you like the Scream franchise, you're going to like this one because it's the same thing. It's a murder mystery, you get the big reveal and the motivation, similar things happening to part 1. It's a recreation of part 1. It's a requel to remaking part 1. There's homages, callbacks, little winks. Hi, if you like the first one, you'll get this joke, like stuff like that. So you're gonna enjoy it if you're a diehard like Scream fan. But as someone who's just a casual Scream fan, they're all just middle of the road, okay to good movies to me. The first one, the fourth one are definitely the best in my opinion. But this one just falls in line with like parts 2 and 3, where this one was just fine. So when it comes to Scream 5, I'll just give this one 3 out of 5 stars. Spoilers, spoilers, spoilers. My big positive that I didn't want to say earlier about the hospital scene is that Dewey is killed. So they finally killed one of the legacy characters. I went into this thinking that they were probably going to do that. I even tweeted, like, here's my prediction for the next Scream movie. They're either going to do, they're going to hopefully kill one of the main 3 characters because they've survived way too long. Somebody needs to die at this point. And I predicted that there was probably going to be one killer. There's 2 killers, so I was wrong. But I was also hoping that they would surprise me and there'd be like 3 or 4 killers. That would have upped it a bit. That would have made it different. That's what they should have done. I was hoping for 3 or 4, but I figured they were going to do 1. But then something happened earlier in the movie where I was like, well, there has to be 2 killers. So that's when it became obvious a little bit who the 2 killers were, given all the information. And the one person who ends up being the killer, she just looks like a fucking psycho when you look at her. And she was the psycho in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Like, you look at her and you're like, there's your killer. Oh, and another spoiler that would have been one of my negatives is the ghost visions. We brought that back from Scream 3. Remember Ghost Mom? Well, now we have Ghost Dad. It's not Bill Cosby, but it's her, Sam, the main character. Her dad is Billy Loomis. So I guess at some point before the events of part 1, when Sydney wasn't putting out, Billy fucked some other chick, and I don't think they ever say her name or show her face. If she's a character we know from Scream 1, I doubt it. But yeah, it's Billy Loomis. That's her dad, and she just keeps seeing visions of him. They're really making her seem psychotic. She's taking pills, so she's like a major red herring. Is she the killer? I wasn't buying into it at all, but I just did not like the visions. It just felt like a forced, just another callback. Like, oh look, it's fan service, really. It just felt forced. Like, I could have done without that. Like, they can reveal that her dad is Billy. That's one thing. Like, all right, that's cool. All right. But then to be like so crazy, and just see visions throughout the whole movie and have him like talk to her and she talks out loud back to him. So everyone around her is looking at her like, who the fuck are you talking to? Like, she just looks like a nut. Like, I didn't care for any of that. That one chick from Scream 3 comes back in this movie. That was kind of cool to see her. Like, oh, she had a very small role in Scream 3, but here she is again. So in Scream 4, they established that gay people, I guess, survive horror movies. And now, I guess it's true in this movie, the gay person does survive. I never knew that was a rule until Scream 4 said it. But now I guess it's true. In this one, the gay character does survive, but it's bullshit. How many people are surviving this movie? Way too many survivors. Once again, they double. Like, I think Scream 1 was like 3 survivors. Dewey, Gail, and Sydney, right? And then I guess Randy. But this one's like 6 or 7. It's like, fuck. How hard is it to kill people in this franchise? These people get stabbed like brutally, like 12 times in their stomach, and then they just walk away. It's ridiculous. It's so insane. These Ghostface killers, especially in this movie, they really suck at killing people. Sorry. And once again, I was going to say it earlier, but I didn't. They do the one last jump scare thing where they always come back for one last scare. They do it again here, and I just, rolled my eyes. Like, really? That person should be dead. They got shot in the chest like 6 times, not wearing a vest that time. I don't know how that person got a vest in the first place. Pretty sure that's illegal to buy. Maybe. I don't know. But, like, they're dead, but then they come back for one last scare. It's like, are we doing that 5 movies in a row? Come on. But yeah, what else? They, what's his name? Randy in part 1. He's got relatives in this movie, and then they bring back Officer Hicks in part 4. She gets killed. And I guess another thing I can throw in here, something that me and the person I went to see this movie with agreed, is what the hell is up with the response time from cops in this movie? When the sheriff calls the cops, the whole police station should be there in a second. It's the sheriff saying, "Go to my house." And then we get like this whole 5-minute sequence, or 10, like it felt like forever, where the killer can wait for her to get there, Hicks, kill her, and then slowly but surely kill the next character. And then finally the cops get there. It's like, dude, she made that call like 10 minutes ago. They should have been there pronto. So that was just a nitpick. It's movie shit, but whatever. It was just such a convenience. Speaking of conveniences, when Dewey gets killed, like, oh, come on, really? Like, Gail called at that moment, and she'll never know that she's the one that caused his death. That would have been kind of fucked up if somehow the killer found that out, and then at the end, when the reveal happens, if they brought that up to her, like, hey, by the way, it was your call that got your ex-husband killed. Like, oh, that would have been such a emotional stab. Like, that would have hurt them. So they should have done that. Missed opportunity. But yeah, that was just another convenience. Like, really? Oh, come on. I did like that at the very end they say "For Wes." Right after the movie's over, right before the credits start rolling, it says "For Wes." So that was a nice touch. And one of the characters in the movie is named Wes. So yeah, those are my thoughts on Scream 5. Let me know what you thought about it. Is it the best sequel? Do you love it more than the original? I doubt it, but let me know. Surprise me in the comments below. And as always, if you like what you've seen here, you can hit this like button and become a subscriber today just by clicking on my cartoon face in about 5 seconds. And remember, it's all an opinion. You don't need to get butthurt about it.